Well, a very warm welcome to our next session of the Stay Engaged campaign, and that is the session on WGC 2020. I have a special guest with us from Iceland. His name is Bjarni Pálsson. Bjarni, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us and taking your time. Bjarni, you are the Executive Director of Geothermal and Wind at Landsvirkjun, but you're also the Chair of the Organization Committee for WGC 2020. There are 3 power companies in Iceland who are underwriting and who are basically hosting that next geothermal big flagship event in Iceland. Landsvirkjun, your company that you work for, but also HS Orca and Reykjavik Energy.
That's correct.
Can you give us a small introduction who you are and why you wanted to be, let's say, the host of the flagship event for the geothermal community?
Yes, well, you gave a very introduction to me personally. I'm a petroleum engineer originally, but working in the geothermal industry for, well, almost 25 years now in total. So I've been working with the geothermal community here in Iceland for quite some time, the Geothermal Association of Iceland and the Energy Cluster as well. And we have been applying several times to actually have the World Geothermal Congress here in Iceland. And finally, we were successful in 2015 to host the 2020 event. And so we have really been working on the preparation since we started preparing the application in the autumn of 2013. So Iceland and the geothermal community here has been very excited to invite the geothermal community from all over the world to visit Iceland, to see what we have been doing and working on, and to discuss our experience and future vision as well.
Yeah, because Iceland has so much to offer, isn't that so?
Yes, I believe so. We have been doing more or less all kinds of geothermal utilization, all the way from greenhouses and district heating, all the way up to electricity utilization. Also taking directions such as geothermal spas and baths, and more recently going into generating cosmetic products and health products and so on, using the various minerals and the heat from the geothermal. So that's why we have been offering Reykjavik as an excellent location for meeting, as we can see a very good example of all of that within, I would say, 1 hour circle out of Reykjavik, which I believe is unique.
Yeah, absolutely, because we were supposed to be in end of April in Iceland, of course, in Reykjavik at the Harpa venue, in a beautiful location. I think everybody saw that in that virtual opening ceremony that we've had. So we saw you standing there, and I think everybody who attended that session thought, oh, we want to be there as well. But from 1 year from now, we will be there and we will convene there, and we're all looking forward to that. But I think you're right. Iceland has been in the queue for hosting the World Geothermal Conference for quite a bit, and I saw that that signed agreement between IGA and host already, in that the negotiations on that agreement already started somewhere 2013-14, which is unbelievable, isn't it, Bjarni? 6 years ago, we were already starting to think about shaping that conference in Iceland, and it's such a pity, isn't it?
Yep, I must admit it was a very hard decision, but a necessary one, obviously. We had, all the way from the catering to the artists and all the practical issues all lined up and ready. But of course, also the geothermal community had been writing, almost 3,000 abstracts, almost 2,000 papers, and these had been reviewed and edited, and hundreds of editors had been working on them, as well as all the authors. So, everyone wanted to come and finish the task and to meet. And I believe, we have an opportunity to still improve, to make it even a better event next year. And I also believe the world has learned quite a lot in the last couple of months. And so that's something that we also can share when we meet in May next year.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think in every situation there is a silver lining, and I think one of those silver lining is that we see a strong call to action when it comes down to green energy. We see a strong call and commitment from a lot of political leadership that says we want to come back stronger and we want to build together a renewable-based economy, and hence geothermal might see a fantastic sort of acceleration as well in the coming months, meaning that, because you were saying indeed that we already got so many people registering for WGC 2020, but maybe we can even make it a bigger event as now in May in 21.
Yes, I think there are several opportunities there. Obviously, we had a very good status for the registration in early February. With about almost 2,000 people that had registered at that time, and still, 2-3 months to go, and it started first to slow down a little bit, and but even after we cancelled, we have had so many requests for people who want to sign up, even for the event next year. So people are still excited to join and participate. May obviously is it's a spring month. We are further along into the spring than April, so the opportunity to travel around Iceland will be greater in late May next year. So there has a lot of benefits as well, having it in that period of time. Obviously, maybe a little bit more competition for hotels and restaurants and so on, but it will be a great time to visit Iceland with more than 20 hours of daylight, as we are so further to the north. But it will be a great time to come and visit and look at the geology and the bird life and so on.
Yeah, because I mean, for those registered, the participants who registered already to come, the majority are still in that pipeline, is it? Hardly anyone cancelled due to...
Yes, we practically have all the sponsors. Very few have pulled back, and also with the individual registrations, the vast majority has continued. Only very few who have, I would say, special circumstances have pulled out. The people are not quite sure where they will be in school next year, or where they will be working for next year, maybe. And also there were some, obviously, that have necessarily have to publish their papers at this point in time due to, for example, educational restrictions. But the vast majority is still with us and committed, and we've had a lot of messages from people just emphasizing their commitment to the event and commitment to continue to come and present the papers or posters.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic to hear, because for us as IGA, I mean, for us, it's of course our flagship event, and it is with a heavy heart that we had to decide, of course, to postpone, and everybody understands. But it still means, and this is also why we're launching these type of campaigns, because it still means that the biggest event, when it comes down to combining the knowledge and bringing together people of all disciplines when it comes down to geothermal, is lacking this year. And we have, of course, a few other national events that take place, hopefully physically, towards the end of the year. But still, this is the one that we were supposed to also shape that agenda. So how would you see that 12 months? We're dealing now with a 12 months extension, and we already said we can see a silver lining. But how do you think, and how is Iceland, positioning geothermal maybe in that new dialogue coming down on that energy transition? How can we win in this period of extension and postponing WGC?
Well, there are several, I would say, opportunities in that way. And for example, we are seeing increased interest from companies, service companies, consultants, and so on, traditionally from oil and gas industry, that seem to be showing increased interest in geothermal utilization, companies that are inquiring about opportunities to have a booth or in the exhibition or a sponsorship or even asking about possibility of talks. And we are actually thinking later on perhaps to open up for people to send in new abstracts.
Yeah.
I think also one of the many learnings that we learned through this situation in the last few months is maybe the increased interest in local food production, for example, and the excellent opportunity to use geothermal to help and improve food production, both for greenhouses, but also for drying and storing and so on. And we are seeing quite a lot of interest in that aspect as well.
Yeah.
So there is also, more like also looking at local opportunities.
Yeah. And that matches, I think, very well what's currently on the table at lots of our political leadership, is that, this crisis that we're currently in really pinpoints how globalized we are. And hence geothermal can play a role in that local to local and regional assessment of what it is that you need to build for your community and as you say, for the food sector. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from that tiny island in the mid-Atlantic, because you've done it all. You're doing it all. You do power, you do district heating, space heating, greenhouses, fish drying. It's fantastic.
Yes, we have certainly everything there. We also have maybe a unique position in terms of geothermal being very high on the agenda for the government, and it's actually one of the three pillars of our, I would say, foreign policy, is to talk about and trying to promote geothermal on a worldwide scale. We have, for example, been hosting the United Nations Geothermal Training Program since the 70s, which is now a UNESCO program, actually, since this year. We've trained, I think, more than 600 candidates through that program that have traveled to their various locations in various parts of the world and are now leaders in their countries in the various aspects, all the way from geosciences and engineering and now more to the business side as well. And these are all people who want to meet up to strengthen their network, not only with Iceland, but also with others that have trained here in Iceland. And that's actually one of the many learnings from this situation, is that we as a humankind on the earth are facing this common enemy, the virus, but we can also learn that working together to fight a challenge is much better way to conquering than actually working one in each other country. So that's why it's so great also to use the opportunity to come together and know each other and share experience and knowledge. And that's even more important now than ever, that people from various different countries and continents meet and share experience and learn from each other. And we believe Iceland is an excellent location for that.
Yes, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's one of the slogans as well of Iceland, that you're an island in the middle, but you are a hub to the world, because from the Americas and from Europe, you can easily come to the island. The island, yeah. No, there was something like that, isn't it? You can convene in the middle, something like that.
Yes, meet in the middle. That has been our slogan, and Iceland has been a hub for transatlantic flights between Europe and the US. So it has been very, very strongly, connected by airlines, and we are just hoping that will stay the same after this situation, get back to normal. Absolutely. And I think both companies and officials are working hard to ensure that will also be the case next year.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean let's say we are all hoping that everything will be open again and that we can, that we all can come, and I'm counting on that. But having learned this experience, you can't be too sure about what the world status is from this point of view. Before we go to the last theme that I wanted to chat with you about, is that the ones who are joining us online, you may ask your questions as well to Bjarni. You'll have him now. So use the chat for typing your questions, and we do have some time to answer them. To answer them later. I was also particularly intrigued with postponing doesn't mean that we say goodbye to our community, and hence as IGA I do think it's important that we constantly that we're be visible, that we're also engaging with our community throughout the world, and hence we're organizing now these sessions. So from Iceland as a host, from you as part of the OC or the organization committee, what are your recommendations for all of us to stay engaged, to keep the momentum when it comes down to WGC, of course, but also to keep that momentum and collaborating on geothermal energy?
Yes, as you mentioned, the World Geothermal Congress has been the flagship event, not only for IGA, but also for the individuals working in the geothermal community. And many people have been looking forward to presenting their learnings and findings, and also learning about what's happening in the outer world. And people having to wait maybe one more year gives an opportunity. We have already had the virtual event where we gave the world updates for both electricity production and the heat. And all the country update papers are already on the IGA website in the database, so people can start to read through them and learn what has been happening in the various different countries. There are in total 88 papers, if I remember correctly, country updates there. And there are several other events that we may have to present a little bit earlier than anticipated, and we'll probably do that through more virtual events in the coming months. I also, as I mentioned before, we are planning to most likely in the autumn time open up a new period where people can hand in new abstracts. Probably there will be a few more speaking slots opening up for people who have to present their papers earlier in another event or by another mean, maybe in a journal. But also we can accommodate more posters and more papers in the World Congress than we have now. So there are several opportunities to actually be engaged and continue to follow what's going to happen. There are still a few, not many, but very few sponsorship and exhibition opportunities available, and there has been a very high demand. We practically sold out all the main booth areas, but we've been finding new areas, so there will be a possibility to add a few more participants in the event.
Yeah.
And obviously we have more spaces for people who want to come and join us.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think this is so nice to see that at one end, because of the high demand, we're almost sold out, and at the other end, there's still people, wanting to book an exhibition booth or speaking slot. So it still means that we can accommodate, but maybe not too much, but we still can accommodate. Because this is one of the questions that I get a lot, and also prior to our chat, a few folks started to asking me, is there still a possibility to send in an abstract? And especially a few of our corporate members asked, can we still sponsor? And I think, Bjarni, you answered it, but it would be very good to say that once more. Yes, you can.
Yes, we can. Obviously, the IGA technical committee, they will organizing the technical program itself. So it's difficult for me to answer for them, but I believe they are thinking about opening up for sending in a few more abstracts. Obviously, this is 12 months time. It still means a little bit of uncertainty about what will happen in the future and what the situation of people will be. But as it looks now, we're still looking to a very big and very successful event, and there is still room. There is still to accommodate more people, more events, more site events, non-technical programs.
Yeah.
We've already had some 20 non-technical, some people call site events lined up. There is still an opportunity to add more if people are interested in that. And the short courses, the field trips, everything will be there, and we still have rooms in most of them.
Yeah.
And we have the possibility, because we have now more time to make bigger rooms if needed, and so on, to accommodate even more people.
Good, because there were a couple of questions that came along, and you already said, and you already mentioned now the non-technical or the side events, because I think, and this is again the silver lining of having to postpone, and the buzz that we see around geothermal energy is that there is still availability now to shape some of these non-technical sessions. So if there is, for instance, an interest in, crossing over oil, gas, geothermal, just as an idea, or the strong focus there is these days on lithium and that EV, battery alliance type of push and pull, can we organize that? And is there still space to do that? And would the OC be, willing to accommodate more sessions, basically?
Yes, we can accommodate a few more, I would say non-technical event, as we call them. In the program, we have a special slot in the time for that, which is after the conventional technical program and before the evening program. And we have the conference center, the whole conference center booked for that period. So there are few opportunities within that period, but also there are opportunities to organize that outside of the conference center. The center is absolutely downtown Reykjavik. So there are various other options as well for hosting such events, off venue but close to the venue. And our PCO is happy to, help various peoples and groups to organize such events and the practical issues.
Yeah. No, I think that's great, because I think that will be, very inspiring for those who have not done so, but to register and to come along and to shape part of their interest groups as well during that, during the event on site. So another question I got was, could you tell maybe a bit more about the field trips and how is that going?
Yes, we are organizing, I would say, two types of field trips. The traditional longer field trips. There is one geothermal trip to the north of Iceland, which is visiting our geothermal plants of Landsvirkjun in the north of Iceland, but also district heating systems and fish drying and various aspects as well. Very exciting trip, which will be the for two-day trip after the Congress itself. We have also various options for, I would say, more scenery type of field trips, like in the southern part of Iceland, where people can look at various geothermal features, volcanic features, and so on. More like, I would say, touristic type of field trips, less energy focused. 1, 2, 3 days after a field trip. But the speciality of the World Geothermal Congress is in Iceland will be the evening field trips. It's a unique location that we have that, as I mentioned before, within 1 hour drive out of Reykjavik, we can see some of the most modern and the greatest geothermal power plants, district heating systems, and also high-tech greenhouses and other type of utilization. So you can find the information about these field trips. Some of them are actually selling up in February. So we are planning, if the interest will still be so high, that we can add to these trips, more buses and maybe take the other circle or working around that program.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So in total, I think we have 9 or 10 different field trips on option. It's quite a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I remember that I think it was the one you referred to first, the 2-day trip to the northern part of Iceland. I thought that was already sold out, or you only had one space left or something like that, because that
Yes, yes, that was sold out. One of the field trips that was sold out. And we were working on trying to add another trip. And I think now we have more time to actually organize that. One of the challenges obviously were hotel rooms in the area. This is also a very popular area with tourists, and now it's difficult to book on very short notice. So I think we have a new opportunity now to find appropriate accommodation for people next year.
Yeah. Wow, fantastic. Fantastic to hear that. With an eye on the time, I'm going to ask a few more questions, and then we will close. Another question that came in is, okay, so we have 20 hours daylight, and we will have around 10 degrees Celsius in your spring on Iceland. Will we get to see the Northern Lights?
No, unfortunately not. The Northern Lights are only visible when it becomes relatively dark. So it's in the winter period. So the final and maybe the best month of the year for Northern Lights is March. But after that, it becomes basically too bright. And definitely in end of May, it doesn't really get that dark in Iceland during that period of time. So even though the Northern Lights are there somewhere, it's not possible to see them.
No. But I think it's better to have such a big conference end of May with your beautiful spring weather than to be able to see the Northern Lights. And I bet these people will come back to Iceland when it's darker. Another question I got is Harpa big enough to accommodate, if we're really going to grow the conference and if we get more participants, is Harpa big enough? Can we accommodate that in Harpa?
The Harpa can accommodate about 3,000 people, I would say, maximum. After that, it would be too crowded. And we've actually, well, not recently had so big turnout in World Geothermal Congress, but it's of course very difficult to say how many will be there. I would say Harpa will fit the anticipated number of people very well. It will not be too big either, and so we will not be hearing any echoing in the corridors during the conference. You will see people probably everywhere. I'm quite sure people will not find it too crowded, inconveniently crowded. So I think this is a very good size for an event of what we are expecting. The option that we had looked at, if we really needed to expand, was to have like a tent outside the conference center, or possibly even connect to other nearby buildings. And in April, when it's maybe a little bit cooler, it was not that feasible. But being in late May actually changes that situation a little bit. We will have better weather, so it's more doable to walk from one building to another, or have a tent for additional exhibition or catering outside. It's also, very well doable at that period of time. So we do have some possibilities to expand the facilities that we have.
Yeah, super. Final question I got is, well, it's going to take place in 21. The conference is called WGC 2020. We are keeping the same website and we're keeping the same social media handles. Is that correct?
Yes. It will still be WGC 2020. Even though it will be postponed until 2021, I think just keeping the name is just to remind us why we are there. What actually happened, and for practical reasons, we've designed and had the website in the air for quite some time, designed the logos, and various different sponsors and companies have already prepared their promotional material with the WGC 2020 logo. So it's also not practical to change the name and change the logo and everything. But I think it's also just good to remind us why are we there, and how did we come to this time and this location. And when we get further along, it will be just a good reminder of a great event, I believe.
Okay. Well, I have a fantastic piece of feedback. I just want to give you that, Bjarni, is that someone in the audience says, this chat is once again igniting my excitement for the event. And
It's very good to hear.
Very good to hear, and thank you. I think it's Helen who says this. Helen, thank you so much, because I agree, and I couldn't say it better than you do, Helen, so thank you for that. But Bjarni, it has been fantastic to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I also hope this is not the last time that we will do this in the coming 12 months, because I do think it's important that we keep on staying engaged and getting that visibility for WGC 2020 and geothermal and Iceland as a whole. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
Thank you all very much for listening in. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody, and also many thanks for joining us for the Stay Engaged session with Bjarni on WGC 2020. Have a great day, or evening, or morning, wherever you are. Thank you.